Welcome to the Blogging and SEO show. I'm Michaela, a stay-at-home mom of 3 who just happens to be in love with everything related to SEO, blogging, marketing, coffee, and shedding light into the many mystifying corners of search engine optimization. And what that means for us service providers, small business owners, and even bloggers. We're ditching the do-it-all narrative surrounding SEO and blogging and just sitting down and crafting strategies that are sustainable but still get us those first page long-lasting results. Now let's get cozy, grab your fave sweater and a cup of tea or coffee, and let's talk everything blogging and SEO. Hello, and welcome back to the Blogging and SEO show. Okay, so this is kind of the first episode since we've undergone this swap to the Blogging and SEO show, and we're going to start it with something, we're just going to dive in with something that grates on my nerves. There's no better way to really say this, but it really, truly just gets on my nerves. So there's this huge belief, specifically in the blogging and SEO world, you're going to hear it a lot, that you need to write more to rank. Or you just need to write more in general. And that is not true. It is big old myth, a lie, whatever you want to call it. Now, at some point before recent years, it did hold weight. So it didn't come out of nowhere. We know where it came from. It's just that it doesn't apply anymore. It used to be the more words you wrote, the more likely we were to hit some keywords. Or even if you had strategically picked keywords, you could put more in there. You could stuff it full of whatever you needed to say. And you would rank. You would rank for keyword after keyword and search query after search query. And then once you would rank for these big, chunky blog posts that you just wrote to write, you would continue ranking because then Google's well, they're doing something right because this blog post is ranking. So next time they make a blog post, I'm going to rank that too. And it just created this cycle of companies pouring money into writing and just writing to write. And ranking and seeing the results of it. And so that is the strategy that people put into it moving forward, and it like I said, it did work. It worked for a while. It was a really good strategy because Google's algorithm just wasn't as sophisticated as it is now. It was okay, you're doing something right. Let's give it to the people. Now, there's been this huge swap in recent years to really user first experience. They really, really bumped up that user experience. And they want you as a writer, as a business owner, to make content, pages, products that truly serve and speak to your target audience. So instead of writing 1,000 words because you need to write 1,000 words, you have to write what makes sense. And it can actually backfire on you if you write 1,000 words just to write 1,000 words, because someone else may write 400 words, but in those 400 words, they gave more than you did in those 1,000 words. And it also comes down to how you present your words as well. Are you writing chunky paragraphs? Do you have 7 sentences in one paragraph and your entire 1,000-word blog post is 5 paragraphs of just words after words after words and statements after statements? And that's a terrible user experience. For most cases, there are some exceptions to the rule because it does depend on who you're writing for. But adult learners, and if you want to know more about adult learning, I highly recommend checking out Entrepreneur Academic. She teaches a lot about adult learning, and there really is a bunch of crossover in writing for adults because that's what we're doing, writing for adults and adult learning. Because in most cases, blogs are educational. At its root, we are informing and sharing knowledge and providing value, solving a problem. And while the content may be presented in a different way, a how-to, a why, overall, we are educating and connecting with our audience. Even when you write a day in a life, which those can be SEO optimized, by the way, even when you write a day in the life, it is still educating your audience about a day in your life. It's a day in life of a copywriter, of a podcast manager, of a doula. Those are still ways to connect, but you're also educating. You're saying, hey, by the way, this is what I do. This is, stuff that I can do in my life and, I help you do, or this is how I help my clients, or, it touches on different aspects. So you're still educating and informing. But back to the word count. You should write only what you need to write for your audience. If it is 400 words, I don't recommend going under 300 because then it's like thin content. So then you're going to have thin content on your page. So don't go underneath 300 words. But that's pretty much the only rule. So if you feel like you have 1,000 words to say and each of those 1,000 words really, really count, say it. Do the 1,000 words. Do 2,000 words. It's up to you. But if you can say it in 700 or 500 words, say it in 700 or 500. Don't fluff it. Don't fill it. Put your personality on it. That's fine. But then just write what you need to write. And don't go back and say, oh my gosh, I need to hit this word count. Because you do not. You do not. You do not have to hit this word count to rank, to serve your audience. Because also there are blogs that you write that SEO is secondary. Your main target may be the audience that you already have. Like, okay, this blog post is great. It's going to support some other blog posts, but maybe it doesn't match a query all the way. So I'm going to put SEO second. So I'm going to, hit my keyword. I'm going to put in the effort to do my meta description, to do my alt images, and to make sure my title and my structure and everything's all good in that route. But when it comes to writing, the people who are going to read it are mainly going to be people who are on my email list, or I'm really planning on dropping this link on my Instagram stories. Like, there are different purposes in there. So don't feel pressured to hit this word count. But that doesn't mean you should go into it with nothing. So instead of trying to hit this word count, if this has been like your practice from here on out, instead of trying to hit a word count, what you need to do is focus on your value, your clarity, and your intent. So, for example, ask yourself, is your content genuinely helpful? Are you answering your audience's burning questions? Are you truly hitting and solving a pain point? Because I would like to remind you that we live in a day where you can find almost anything on the internet. If you do not answer their questions, somebody else will. Your client should not want to work with you because you are the only way they can get the answer, but it should be that they trust you to do it either for them or give them the best results or provide the support they need. Like for example, let's go back to this doula. A doula could write a blog post about everything in the world of parenting, but truly her role or his role is to support during birth, during pregnancy, even, there are postpartum doulas. So you can offer the support through education, but ultimately, like, if they want to work with the doula, they're going to have to hire the doula. Like, to have someone holding your hand, have someone educating you, have someone walking through your personal experience, because not every pregnancy or birth or anything is the same. So if you want that one-on-one, like, you have to, go through the process and work with them. You're not going to gather everything from a blog post, no matter how much the doula writes. Will you trust the doula more because she's giving you honest answers and really, like, not BSing you in her content? Yes. You're going to trust her enough to want to work with her. So that's really what we're going there for value. Next, let's talk about clarity. So clarity, are you writing in a way that's easy to read and understand? And are you keeping the same idea, that same line of thought through your blog post? This is kind of where we go back to that adult learning. Some of the ways that you can think about this is, if there's a complicated section, are you breaking it into smaller paragraphs? People like to read 1 to 3 sentence paragraphs. We're not writing our MLA formatted or ABA formatted essays anymore. We're writing for people. We're writing for adults who are on a time crunch to consume this content because there is so much content out there. So are you, writing in 1 to 3 sentence chunks? Do you have bullet points? Are you breaking down ideas? Are you using your H2s and H3s? Are you not over explaining? Because you can definitely do that. Like, we have to think of also of who is reading it. Like, let's go back to the doula because it's on my mind, obviously. She could have multiple blog posts written for people in different stages of their journey, and you have to consider that. For example, if you're writing a blog post for a mom or a parent that has already had their child, you're going to be speaking differently than someone who has not, who is currently pregnant or currently expecting. It's also going to look different if you're talking to someone who's had 3 children versus no children, like this is their first experience, or even like just, 9 months postpartum versus third trimester. Like you're talking to two different people with two different stages of awareness in the topic who are educated to different extents. And knowing that about your audience makes a difference. It also determines what type of information you should provide in the blog post. And I feel like these maybe overlap a little bit, but for example, are there concepts that you need to define? Or will most people, I say most people, or will most people who are reading this post already know this concept and we can focus more on other stuff that they need to know? Because we don't need to recap everything in every blog post. If you feel like it needs to recap, you can add a quick blurb, so like a little 1-sentence thing, and backlink to one of your other blog posts that does define this term so that they know, this information is readily available, but if you know it, you can keep reading. If you don't, you can click here and access it. Like it's easily accessible, and that actually increases the engagement on your website, which also benefits your SEO. So we just want to make it easy to read, comprehend, and just dive through. We don't want to make it difficult for readers, whether that's experience, knowledge, value, whatever it is. We just want to make it an easy process for whoever decides that they're going to read your blog post. Well, and it's not whoever, but it's whoever you want to read it, because you also want to make sure that if it's not meant for somebody, like very obviously not meant from somebody, when they read that first paragraph, they're like, oh, well, this probably isn't for me. I'm gonna ditch. Because the more someone realizes it's also not for them, the more Google realizes that it's not for this searcher, and they can put you where you should be instead. All right, finally, this also, I guess this really does tie into clarity, but intent. So every keyword has a search intent. And topic, if we're going to go that way, but there's different kind of ways to think about this. Like there's an intent in your blog post, like what you want them to do and what you want them to gain, the value you want them to receive by the time that they're done. But there's also an intent for the searcher. So in SEO, you have different intents. So you have transactional, informational, I believe research, and there's a few others, but it really depends on what you're using to identify the keyword as to what they label it in SEO tools. But essentially, each keyword has a different intent. So if you're looking for bookkeeper near me, you're probably thinking transactional, like you're probably ready to hire, versus, what does a bookkeeper do? You're like, okay, this is more educational. So each keyword kind of has its own intent, and you should try to make sure that your content matches that intent, that whatever they are searching for, that you're using the keyword in a way that matches the intent in your content. This one is really, it's something that you learn. It's practice. You're going to have to keep writing and writing to kind of make sure that you go there, that you get to that point where you are matching the intent, because it is a skill that you learn. Well, writing is a skill that you learn, that you have to work on and practice. So to kind of sum it up, if you're building your content based on old, outdated practices like hitting a word count, it's going to be hard to rank, and you're going to put more pressure on you when you don't need to. Like, write what you need to write and move on. And actually, depending on the post, if you have written 2,000 words, you should definitely crawl through it and say, okay, is this information really needed? Or maybe this could be another blog post, because we got to remember, we're also thinking of user experience. And there are industries, people that they're trying to reach do enjoy reading long blog posts. For example, travel. People enjoy reading long travel guides, but not all travel guides, but it has to be specific ones. And knowing that about your audience is also key. But the same does not apply to like a copywriting business, or for me, blogging. Most people want a bit shorter posts because they're looking for a specific answer. They're not looking for a travel guide. They're looking for, I have a question, I need an answer, I have a problem, and I want a solution. Or, well, I said this, but I'm curious, give me more information. That's kind of how it works more as a business owner versus a traditional blogger. But of course, there are exceptions to every rule, so just keep that in mind. The more you know about your audience and how they interact with content and what they're looking for, the easier it's going to be. But one more summary, write what you need to write, and don't write to hit a word count. That is all for today. We are still in spooky month. So if you're listening to this after October, we are no longer in spooky month. I hate to tell you, But if you're listening to this as it is going live, we are still in October, so we are still doing Spooky Month. If you have not been able to experience the spookiness, go over and either subscribe to my newsletter because it is also spookified, or head over to Instagram at comamama.co, and everything has been spookified. I'm a ghost. I love it. I did spend 45 minutes dressed as a ghost to take those photos, so the appreciation is welcome. And they've also released a October exclusive free resource, and it will be linked in the show notes below. It is the Guide to Spooky Good SEO. The link is down in the show notes. It is there for you if you would like it, and I highly recommend grabbing it because we are counting down the days in October. And like I said, it is only in October. Ma'am, it took me so much work to put it together, but it is for you, and I hope you appreciate and enjoy it. So until next week, till next time, I'm so glad to be back talking with you. And as always, if you need anything, reach out. I'm here. As always, I hope you were able to learn at least one new thing today and how you can apply it to your own business or blog. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Blogging and SEO Show. Don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. I promise it's a goodie. And check the show notes for everything we talked about today. And come connect with me on Instagram at comamama.co. If you have any questions or thoughts you want to share, DM me. Let's chat. Until next time, talk soon.